Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host Grace Jung and class is now in session. I'm traveling with my mom, and she's sleeping because she's in New York time, and I am in the closet recording this. A lot of people gave me shit for coming to Boise, Idaho, but honestly, it is so beautiful here. I saw so many beautiful things all day today. We went on a hike towards this Blue Lake Trail place. It was like a 2-hour drive from Boise, and it was fucking gorgeous. Just followed the river, you know, and it was just amazing. And there are a lot of places right now, especially in the summer, people are renting cars, they're renting RVs, and they're traveling, they're hitting the road. I heard Yellowstone is extremely packed at the moment. And I would rather travel to a quaint, quiet, non-touristy place than a place like Yellowstone at this time of year. Genuinely. The show we're going to talk about today is called Thank You. It's a show that came out in the year 2007. It stars Chang Hyuk and Kong Hyo-jin. I love them both. I also love the writer of this show. The writer is named Lee Kyung-hee, and she did a whole bunch of K-dramas. One of the shows, the first show she's ever written for, is called Model. Came out in 1997. It is, wow, what a show. It is incredible. It's about Korean models in the late 90s, and back then, I guess they had to do a lot more than just model, just run up and down the runway. They had to do these weird techno freaky dances, and it's humiliating to watch. It's astounding. They had to do a lot of excessive performative things back then. It is just incredible. Another kind of well-known show that Lee Kyung-hee wrote is called Sangdu Let's Go to School. That came out in 2003. That stars P, or Rain, and Kong Hyo-jin together. That was a pretty interesting show. One of my favorite shows of all time that she's written is called I'm Sorry, I Love You. That came out in the year 2004. That was actually a Japanese show, or it was a Japanese manga. In any case, it was a Japanese narrative, and then Korea adapted it. They even rewrote the Japanese song. In Korean, it's called Nunkot, which means snowflake. But that song was originally, the tune is originally written by a Japanese composer. So I thought that was really interesting. The show that Lee Kyung-hee is perhaps the most well known for is called Chocolate, and that's a JTBC drama that came out in 2019, and it is on Netflix, and it is terrible. If you want to see a good drama, this is not the one. This show sucks. But the show I'm going to talk about today is called Thank You, and it came out in the year 2007. It is a romantic drama. I wouldn't say it's a rom-com. There's nothing really comedic about it. Kong Hyo-jin's character, she's a single mother to a precocious young, I think she's 6 years old, a 6-year-old kid, and she lives with her senile grandfather. So she's the caretaker of her senile grandfather, caretaker of this young child, and she's a single mom, and she lives out in the bumfuck village nowhere. This child has a condition. The child is HIV positive, and the way that this baby got HIV is Kong Hyo-jin's character took the kid to the hospital when she was a young infant, and the baby needed a blood transfusion. So a doctor who was assigned to do this transfusion did it, but turns out the blood that she transfused into this child was contaminated with HIV. So the baby ends up getting HIV. That in and of itself is devastating, right? It's terrible. But no, it gets worse. A doctor who gave this HIV positive blood transfusion is engaged to another doctor, a man, And that man ends up losing this female doctor to cancer, right? So the female doctor dies of cancer. Right before she's dying, though, she tells her male doctor partner, look, I made this terrible mistake and I need you to go and apologize on my behalf because I wanted to do this, but I just never got around to doing it. So this male doctor, Chang Hyuk's character, he ends up going to this bumfuck village where he meets Kong Hyo-jin's character, meets this young kid, and he ends up falling in love with Kong Hyo-jin, and you know where it goes from there. Korea's obsession with blood is really interesting. It's something to think about, actually. Why is any nation obsessed with blood? Blood is usually associated with this notion of national purity. In Korea, even to this day, you'll hear some older people say things like, oh, you have Korean blood running in you. And that is a very nationalistic thing to say, of course, because it implies that the Korean identity is a pure identity and it is blood related. So that obsession has something to do with the notion of patrilineality, obsession with patriarchy, which is also associated with nationalistic motivations. But it is also highly xenophobic, of course. This kind of xenophobia percolated especially during the colonial era because Korea was very anti-Japanese, of course, because they were being raped and pillaged by Japan at the time. Korean identity was being erased by the Japanese imperial government very actively. So there are these negative associations. But then over time, of course, that kind of blood obsession translated more into things like, well, we don't want to mix with these American GIs that flock in. So any of the women who wound up having relations with American GIs, especially body workers back then, or women who ended up having to conduct body labor in order to get by, mostly to support their families, many of them wound up getting pregnant, and those children were oftentimes sent away overseas to be adopted by other families. And that was sort of the beginning of Korean adoption, overseas adoption. And that was also highly driven by America and its need to display or perform an altruistic or quote unquote Christian act by taking in a child, an orphan, who may need a home. Around the same time that American GI babies were being adopted or being born or sent overseas, there was also America's involvement in the Cold War with the USSR and America's need to perform some positive PR in order to prove to the world, especially to the USSR, the Soviets, that they were not a racist country. Because the United States, they were dealing with a lot of bad publicity around the globe with the civil rights movement and their anti-black laws and whatnot. Koreans are really the middle minority in more than one sense of the word. They're not only the middle minority in America, especially in the 80s and 90s with the greengroceries, but they were also the middle minority for these kinds of global international relations. If you have AIDS, right? I mean, AIDS or HIV, this is technically a metaphor of not wanting contaminated blood, right? Contaminated blood being a blood that is unfamiliar, right? So non-Korean, that's one strike. If you don't know who the father is, like in the case with this child with a single mother, it's another strike. So this show, if anything, is calling attention to the conformist attitudes that the Korean society has. It is a critique of Korea's obsession and hang-ups with purity, quote unquote, purity in blood. Today's guest is Jackie Monahan. She is hilarious. She's been a stand-up for a very long time. She wrote a screenplay that went to Sundance. She is an actress. I mean, she's really something else. I love Jackie. I think she's so funny. I think she is a very kind person. I think she's also a very weird person. Like, I love weird people, and Jackie falls under like one of those weird people categories. And I loved her stories. I love the fact that she grew up in the East Coast. So there are all these lovable aspects about her, and she was a terrific guest. So I'm very excited for us to talk to Jackie Monahan about it.
Okay. That's what everybody says. It's so funny.
How are you doing?
Good. I have like all these different microphones, and everybody says it sounds better without it.
It's always gonna be like a trial and error process.
Right.
Like when I was putting this thing together, I went through like 2 different microphones, and then this was the best one. So it's the most expensive one. They always cost money.
Are you in your house? You have that awesome setup?
Yeah, it's my closet.
I love it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's my closet. It works.
That's great.
Thanks. Yeah, you gotta work with what you have, right?
Yeah.
It's all we can do.
It's all we can do.
That's all you can do. But you've been busy. I always see you doing something. You're like one of the busier comics that I see around.
Oh, thank
on Facebook and like social media.
La la.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the Jackie Mo show I started during the pandemic. So
yes.
So it's a podcast and a show. You were on the show, but I would love to have you on the podcast as well.
Oh, you have a podcast as well. That's cool.
With the same name, so it's confusing, but
yeah.
But I like confusing, so it's good.
Yes. Make it confusing, you know? Like, that's what people don't get. If something's just like very straightforward and clear, like crystal clear, you know, it doesn't leave room for like ambiguity.
Right.
And like weird surprises.
Yeah. And ambiguity is my favorite quality on the planet, so.
Yes.
Besides humility.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's very important. Like, that's something that like people forget, you know? Because I think when something is ambiguous and it's not clear, sometimes people don't feel safe, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like, what is this? What am I looking at? Like, I don't understand this. And I think that's like the root of all the problems. I think that's the root of xenophobia.
Yeah.
That's the root of transphobia. That's the root of like discrimination against people who are non-gender binary.
Right.
It's like the root of like women are also very like into ambiguity and the grays, and we're very articulate, unlike men, you know? They just know like 4 words and like they know how to wield guns. Like that's what they know.
Yeah.
But
Did you
like
see,
women are good at handling. Sorry, what?
Did you see the new movie? I just watched it last night. Promising Young Woman.
I haven't. I really want to see it, but I don't know how to watch it. Like, I know that Amazon has this pre-theatrical release thing, but it's like expensive, and I don't want to pay for it. Is that how you saw it?
My ex-wife.
Your ex-wife.
She bought it, and then she texted me like, "Watch it on my Amazon."
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. I wish I had an ex-wife who would do that for me.
I know, you need an ex-wife.
I need just an like, I don't even want to get married to a woman and have like the whole lesbian married couple experience. Like, I just want to skip to the ex-wife part.
Ex-wife part's the best. It really is.
She sounds great.
She's amazing. You would love her. She's great.
How long were you guys married?
12 years.
Damn.
Yeah, she's my best friend.
Long
now.
time.
I should call her my best friend instead of ex-wife, but she's my ex-wife. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have a history with this best friend.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. You guys like live near each other, or?
No, she lives in New York. We lived together in New York City, and then I moved here. And she has a new wife, but with the new wife, they have property here, so they come back and forth. They're not bi-coastal because they spend most of their time there, but they go back and forth. So I get to see her a lot. She's coming in April. Yeah.
That's cool. You're like the second person I know who has like a close relationship with her ex-wife. Do you know Aaron Moore? I mean, not Aaron Moore. Aaron Moore.
I
She's
don't.
a trans comic. She's
You
a
know, I
trans
might
comic.
know her, but I don't remember, you know.
She's like around. She's in LA. She's
Yeah.
around. But yeah, she also has like a close relationship with her ex-wife, and like her ex comes and visits her here in LA, and she's from Seattle originally.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, my ex
So
is
you're
from Montana.
yeah,
Yeah.
Montana. Wow, Montana. Have you seen this movie called Sweetgrass?
No. Is it great?
It's a documentary about like sheep herders, like cowboys who herd sheep in Montana. That's all it's about. There's nothing else that happens. But I love this movie.
Sometimes calming things like that are so nice. Was it just
They're
calming?
so nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
'Cause-
It's really calming.
Yeah, because our lives, like to make, I remember when I first started writing, people were like, you have to write conflict in. And I was like, I don't want conflict. I hate conflict. And I hate when
I
it's
know.
forced in movies too. I'm just like,
Yes.
this is so stupid. Like, just let it. But now I get it. You need conflict. And it's the same with life.
Yeah.
We need,
Yes.
but we don't need conflict. We need contrast.
Mm-hmm.
We need contrast to figure out the what we want. But we don't need to have
Yes.
conflict with it.
It's not necessary. Yeah. Conflict
Yeah.
is not necessary. We don't need to take it to a conflict point. We could have like differing opinions,
Yeah.
differing views.
Yeah. And
This is, again, this is part of your ambiguity mantra, it seems.
right. Yeah. Yeah, it's important to me because I really came from a place of lots of conflict. I fought all the time. Anyway, but this movie, Promising Young Woman, it's like, man, it's like what I wish I made. Like the movie is just like puts it in a bow of like how I felt through my 20s and 30s, just really angry. So
Yeah.
angry.
Yes.
And yeah, and it's just so good. You have to see it. But yeah.
I remember seeing the trailer, like when we were still allowed to go to the movies and stuff, you know, I remember seeing the trailer long time ago. And I was like, this movie looks promising. You
Yeah.
know, it looks
It's
like the kind of film that I'd want to watch.
it's
Yeah.
super gratifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond.
Carey Mulligan's great. I think she's a great actress.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for the extra push because I
Yeah.
really want to see it. So,
yeah.
yeah. And like, I don't know about you, but like lately, like for me at night, I just like, I have this ritual of just like watching a movie, you know, it's just before I go to bed, like I'm going to watch a movie. And it's like last night I watched Roman Holiday for the first time.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
It was so good.
So good.
I was like,
Delightful.
yeah, I was like, also like, what a kind of a weird movie,
Yeah.
you know, like it's like kind of a bizarre film. Like, yeah, but that also had like kind of a conflict, right? But not necessarily a conflict. They were just lying to each other.
Right.
You know, she was hiding her princess identity. He was hiding his journalist identity, and but they're not like cruel to each other. They,
Right.
you know, kind of engage and enjoy this great day, and then it's like, oopsie.
And
yeah,
then there's a
later on.
misunderstanding.
Yeah. That's a kind of a conflict, but it's
Definitely.
more in the neutral kind of air.
Yeah. But we as
Yeah.
viewers get so like, I mean, I do. I get like, I have to tell myself all the time, like, it's a movie. Who cares, Jackie? Like, calm down.
Right.
But I get so
Right.
like, oh, why can't they just see that?
Yes.
Like, I hate living in the moment of, like, oh, if he just knew that she, and it's just like, no, Jackie, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Right. Because we're watching, we see it all, but they don't. And we're like, why don't you just see that, you know?
Like, just ask
She
her.
didn't mean it.
Just ask
Just talk. Just communicate.
Yeah. Stop assuming. Be direct.
Yeah. Do you think that's maybe like the root of all the problems of like Americans being poor communicators. It's that like all the screenwriters are trained in order like trained to produce conflict, right? Like that's like screenwriting 101. You
Right.
have to have conflict, otherwise it's gonna be boring, so they say. And so okay, you have conflict, and conflict is usually it's like, you know, if you look at Friends, for instance, like every single episode, it's like somebody's lying. Like that's gonna be the conflict
Yeah.
thing. Somebody's always dishonest about something or trying to hide something. And then later it's like all revealed and blah blah blah. But it is entertaining, but it's also like all you had to do was just say the truth.
Yeah, exactly. The
Right?
truth, yeah. So funny. I
Yeah.
hated Friends. I'm gonna get so banned for that. I really hated
You know, you're
it.
like
It got
the
my
third person
nerves.
I know who hates that show.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But wait, what did you say right before that about
Like it's like
Friends?
the root of like
Oh,
all these
being
medias.
honest. Being honest.
Yeah, just be honest.
Full disclosure, full honesty, I'm sober.
Yes,
And thank
congratulations.
you. And part of my program is I have to be rigorously honest. And
Mm,
I thought like that I was rigorously honest, but like
yeah.
I wasn't. And it's amazing how much life is better when
Mm-hmm.
I am rigorously honest. Like I can go to
Mm.
sleep like without being like, oh, I hope this person doesn't find that out. You know what I mean? Like, oh God, I
Yeah.
hope they don't find this out. Like what? Like I'm just like, oh, I did everything honestly today. I can go to
Yeah.
sleep.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay. So, okay, another way to cure America's insomnia problem is radical honesty.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
People don't realize that we all carry these things with us at all times, and they can be very minor, you know,
right.
but they're there. We carry them,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're our own kind of rationalizations in order to prove something to ourselves.
yeah,
And that kind of thinking leads to toxicity, you know? It's
yeah,
like, oh, like that woman mistreated me. But it probably was just like in the moment thing, right? Like maybe like she just, you know, she was just dealing with something negative and all she could do was react negatively to you in that moment. But then you go, oh, she's like a sexist, self-hating cunt, you know, to
yeah,
rationalize, give reason for
yeah,
it rather than being like, oh, like, are you having a bad day? Like,
yeah,
or maybe just thinking, oh, maybe she's just, you know, not able to, you know, meet me where I'm at for my needs and just, you know, because that might be the harder thing to just swallow based on how our ego reacts, you know, with defensiveness and
yeah,
creating rationalizations. But
yeah.
it's necessary to peel these things back.
I used to get in fist fights.
You? You skinny little thing?
I mean, fist fights.
Over what? Like,
Oh my
what?
God, people just like, it's so funny. And like, all right, well, here's an example of just a random thing. This isn't a fist fight, but I worked
Yeah.
in a coffee shop, and this woman was really rude to me. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, and she'd ordered a cranberry muffin. I remember
Okay.
distinctly. And I was like, you know, I'm not always here. Like, you could
Oh.
be mean to me right now because I have a boss and I'm not going to be mean back. But I might see you out there. And you don't want that. I was like, trust me, you do not want that. And she was just like, oh my God. And I took the muffin and just crunched it and put it in But the fights, I got in so many fights because I had no coping skills. So somebody like did something wrong, but they would do
Yeah.
something wrong. Like one girl like was after me for a long time in Rhode Island. We were like 20, and
Okay.
he was like 23, still too old to be acting like this. And she like wanted to fight with me all the time, and I wouldn't fight with
Yeah.
her. And then she like picked on my friend to get to
no.
me. So I
Mm-mm.
got in a fight with her, but she was way bigger than me. Like
Mm-hmm.
a cop came and broke it up. The cop was after my friend, like wanted to date my friend, and
Oh
he
God.
looked up the girl's rap sheet that I got in the fight with, and she had this long rap sheet. Like I had nothing, and she had this
Yeah.
long rap sheet, and I kicked her ass. I but but I took my shoe off and slammed it into her head,
Oh my God.
and
Were
my
they heels?
yeah. They were chunky heels though. They weren't spike heels. And my friend, like when it happened, my friend looked at when they pulled us away finally. My friend looked at the other girl and was just like, Jackie, I don't even want to look at Jackie because the girl's shirt was ripped off. She had blood pouring out of her. Like she thought I was like she was so scared to look over, and I was just like, with the girl's bra in my hand. Like, I ripped her bra apart.
Did you grow up in New Jersey?
I was born in New Jersey.
Look, you can't take the Jersey
I
out of her, no matter
know.
what.
But I grew up in Rhode Island. Rhode Island, which
Oh, okay.
is just like Jersey in so many ways. The part I grew up in. I mean, there was a lot of mafia in Rhode Island. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So these are skill sets that you developed
yeah,
as a youth.
but I'm pointing out I had a lot of rage in me because I had a lot of rage in me from my parents, and so when
Yeah.
someone messed with me, I just like
Oh,
took it
yeah.
out on them like this. I broke a guy's
Right.
nose once. some guy some guy grabbed my crotch, and I turned
Okay,
around,
well,
and he looked at me
yeah.
like, yeah, you like that, because he was really good looking, so he thought I liked it. And I just punched him in the nose, and I felt it
Yeah.
crack. And before I could even
Oh,
think
God.
again, I smashed it, and blood poured out of his nose. Like, and now I'm like, I'm just honest all the time. Like, I'm a completely different person.
Yeah, you're sober, you're honest. Do you go to therapy?
I did a lot, and it never worked. Like doing programs, it didn't work. It just made me
Yeah,
angrier.
you were impenetrable, even
Yeah.
with therapy.
And I had a therapist hit on me. I had a guy therapist.
That's fine now.
I went to a
Big
guy.
mistake.
Yeah. My friend was like, Jackie, you don't have. It's so funny. My middle name is Primrose, and he was like, Miss Primrose, you don't have any good guy influences, so maybe go to a guy therapist. And I was like, oh, like just.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't a good idea. But I've
Yeah.
had a lot of female therapists that I loved and wrote me cards. Like they were beautiful human beings, and they helped
Yeah.
me a bit, but nothing
Yeah.
like. I mean, I didn't get coping skills from them.
Interesting. It was just like kind of like how to say it? Like CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy,
Yeah.
just like talking, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And I did EMDR. That worked. That worked, but it was like
Okay.
temporary, kind of.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with EMDR,
Yeah.
but okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, okay. So the poor communication in the family, I'm sure was a thing. I'm sure drinking was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both my parents are alcoholics. And
Both.
I'm
Wow.
an only child. So and and my family was in New Jersey, and we moved to Rhode Island, so it was just me and them. It was just me observing these alcoholics.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Like I was a little kid alone with this couple.
That sounds
like
like
that,
a nightmare.
and their parents were alcoholics, so they didn't know how to parent themselves.
No,
So they had
let
to.
alone a child.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting. They weren't, like, I paint this picture of this, like, they never got in fist fights. Like, it was me. I mean, they argued with each other. They had rage, but they were very, like, hoity-toity a little bit, you know?
Okay.
But their actions weren't. I don't know how to explain it. But, like, I
Yeah.
paint this picture of, like, shameless. But they weren't, like, shameless. I don't know. I don't know how to explain
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Were they like middle class or upper
They
middle
were
class?
middle class. They would bounce back and forth. Like they're yeah, they would bounce back and
Okay.
forth. They gave the illusion of middle class a lot.
All
And
right.
then they became middle class. And then they
Yeah.
just like went up and down a little bit.
Okay. That must have
Yeah.
been kind of lonely, like to have family. I mean, Rhode Island's still like, I guess, northeast, but it's still a bit of a drive from Jersey. So,
Yeah.
kind of feeling like if something were to happen, right? Because having alcoholic parents, lack of responsibility, sometimes you would wonder as a child, like, oh, who's going to take care of me if something were to happen?
Right.
And it's like you don't have aunts and uncles or cousins nearby
Right.
who can just
Nothing.
come
It
to
was just
you.
me.
That creates major anxiety in children.
Yeah.
I grew up with that too, because my entire family is in South Korea. They're nowhere near,
Oh
like,
wow.
in another state or whatever. So,
Wow. So
yeah, there would be like,
yeah.
those irrational anxieties. I don't know if you've had this, but like when my parents were out, you know, with my younger brother, they were just away and like it's been a few hours and it's like late, let's say it's like 9:30, 10 p.m. and I'm like, oh, they're still not home. In my brain, I would think they got into a car accident. They're all dead
Yeah.
and I need to be shipped off somewhere, but where would I go? Oh, maybe I'll go to this aunt. Like I like her. Like I would make
Right.
plans in my brain. That's anxiety. Like
Yeah.
that is the definition of anxiety. And I remember going through these things in my mind as a child. Did you have things like
I
that?
did. Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, I tortured myself, my mind, and especially as comics, because
Yeah.
Chris Rock talks about ignorance is bliss. And as
Yeah.
comics, we don't have that luxury of
Mm.
ignorance. We see
No.
everything. Like, that's how we become comics, that we see so much injustice and we're just like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's not bliss. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but yeah, I was diagnosed by the therapist. Not that therapist. When I came here, I was
Yeah.
diagnosed with chronic PTSD.
Mm-hmm. CPTSD.
Yeah. And, but it was funny because the other therapist diagnosed me with ADD. So I was given Adderall for my
Whoa.
PTSD.
How was that?
It was awful. It's like giving acid to a schizophrenic. Like it was
Oh
not.
my God,
It was
Jesus. It was
nothing
that
like.
bad?
Yeah, it was terrible. I would want to get. Yeah, it made me so angry.
Oh, it made you more angry. Wow. Okay. And did it lead to like more irrational thoughts or
Oh
behaviors?
yeah, yeah. I remember I
Okay.
went to Sundance and I was on so much Adderall. I was on
Whoa.
Adderall and I got in an argument with somebody that I shouldn't have. Yeah, yeah.
But you weren't mixing with alcohol at the time. It was just Adderall.
No, I was.
I know you have this Sundance film that you wrote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when was that? And do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. It's the Foxy Merkins.
Nice.
We're lesbian hookers. It's a parody of My Own Private Idaho
Ah,
and Midnight Cowboy.
nice.
Yeah,
Great movies.
yeah. So and I get to play like the Dustin Hoffman character, and I get to play the Keanu Reeves character. So
Nice.
like my character is based off those two.
Mm.
So it's a world that doesn't really exist. There's not really
Hmm.
anything. There's not really lesbian hookers because there's not really a need
Yeah.
for them.
Hmm.
So it's just like if there was a world where there were lesbian hookers, but the
Hmm.
lesbian hookers go after Republican women because
Wow.
because Republican women are the most suppressed.
Like Condoleezza.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so they go after them, and yeah, so the hilarity ensues.
Okay. I
Yeah,
love this. That's amazing. Okay. What was it again? Something
the
Merkins?
Foxy Merkins.
Foxy Merkins. Okay.
We
I love
wanted to
that.
call it My Own Private Wisconsin, but it was too hard to try to get the rights, so we were just like,
Oh,
yeah.
wow, really?
Yeah, we were scared that there was going to be a problem with it. So then we came up with the Foxy Merkins. And I like that
Okay.
name too. I think it's a fun name for a band.
It's a great title. Yeah, the Foxy Merkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I could see like the Foxy Merkins come out as like a post Riot Girl punk girl band.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. That sounds cool, man. How long did it take for you to write that?
It took a long time.
Yeah.
Our process is very different from other people.
Mm-hmm.
We do automatic writing where it's like morning pages, but different where the woman who taught it, like she teaches it, people pay her a lot of money to learn it. And so she taught it to me and I was like, so that's how we write. So it takes a very long time. It's very layered, but I like how it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think being a screenwriter is like another, it's like slightly different from being like a prose writer, I think.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
yeah, like prose writers, like I'm a prose writer, you know, I write essays, like written fiction, I've written poetry. But screenwriting is so much harder for me. It's way, way harder. It's like you gotta create characters like, you know, out of necessity almost. It's like, oh, so she's gonna go in here, now she encounters somebody. It's like, oh, you have to create them as you go. And like you have to be okay with like in the moment not fully fleshing it out. It's like you gotta just keep moving and keep writing. But then like, you know, maybe go back and add things or just like trust that, you know, during casting or during directing, they'll figure it out, whatever. And it's like a different mentality. I don't know. I find it quite challenging.
It
So I'm
is
in awe of you.
challenging. Yeah. It is
Yeah.
challenging.
Do you have like a writing ritual? Like, do you write regularly?
I do. I do. I write with the same woman. And
Mm,
so we write on Zoom because she's in New York. Uh,
okay.
but yeah, and then I try to write every morning on my own, but I'm not as good. But I have set times, and I write with the other woman from the film too. We write all different
Okay.
separate times. But I am
Mm,
working on possibly putting together like teaching that method on Clubhouse.
okay. Wow.
But
Yeah.
can I just have like a certain amount of people in Clubhouse? I don't even know. I'll figure that out. Or I might teach
Yeah.
it on Zoom or something.
Yeah. Whatever it is,
Cause
but
then,
do it.
cause I would like a bunch of people to know how to do it and do it with me because then we could just write all the time. Because it's
Yeah.
really fun. I remember
Yeah.
when she taught it to me. I remember sitting looking up and being like, "This is more fun than drinking." And it was when I was like in the middle of drinking and then never thought I would stop drinking. But like I had
Mm,
found something that I like more because when you do it with other people, it's just so fun. And you could work on
yeah.
your own thing, but right
What's
with them.
the found like the primary principle of this technique, would you say?
It's actually started by this woman, Natalie Goldberg. And
Okay.
she has books about it, Writing Down the Bones and
Hmm.
Wild Mind.
Oh,
And so what we do is we set a certain amount of time. Like today we wrote for 10 minutes straight.
mm-hmm.
And then you read it
Mm,
to each other. And right now sometimes we work on stuff together and sometimes we work on stuff separate and we're working on something separate now.
mm,
And so we just write our own thing and it could be about anything and there could be a writing prompt.
mm-hmm.
And then we read it to each other and the other person takes down the images from it. And
Takes
then,
down images.
yeah. So
What does that mean?
like like say like just like a short part of something that stood out from you from my writing.
Okay, got it.
Something that I might not even have seen.
Mm,
And like something that struck you as interesting, you would write it down. And
mm-hmm.
usually like 3 or 4 words.
Mm,
And then you read the images back to the person, give them the images, and then you set the timer again and write from those images, feeding those images into your project. So it makes
Okay.
it move and gives it a layer that's just like priceless.
Yeah, it seems like a highly collaborative kind of practice, uh, very productive, and yeah, it sort of like shatters this myth that writing is a solitary activity,
Yeah. It's makes
which
it so much fun.
is a myth.
And then
Yeah.
you're trying to make the other person laugh sometimes.
Okay, because you're a comic, you got that in
Right.
you.
So, I mean, you just end up writing something for yourself.
Yeah, you're hitting two birds with one stone kind of
Right.
situation. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, because of the pandemic, like I've been doing like writing groups for comedy, like joke writing. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it gets tricky. There was one I was like doing regularly, but I had to stop because there was a pattern with one particular writer where she kept repeating my punchlines, as her own. Like,
Oh,
the blasphemy, right? But like, have you encountered this? Like people who like
yeah.
unwittingly steal one of your punchlines or unwittingly repeat something that you say?
Yes. Yes. I actually, I will never name this name, but
Yeah, well, I'll never name this name either.
I,
Because it's just again, it's just something truthful to ourselves. The world doesn't need to know it. Yeah.
right. I had a situation where I was in, I was doing comedy on a resort with another comic, and the other comic had a jellyfish sting. So the other comic was like, "Will you pee on my jellyfish sting?" And I was like, "Sure." But we were attracted to each other, so it was like
Okay.
it was kind of fun. But she did have a jellyfish sting. So then I wrote the joke. I love it here. Like when I did my show, I was like, I love it here. People are so nice. Somebody peed on my leg, and I didn't even have a jellyfish sting. And and so then I was doing it back in New York,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this other comic all of a sudden had the same joke,
It's a very specific
and it
joke.
happened to me, right?
You lived it.
I lived it. And then, and if something in me, I really didn't think she was a thief.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually, like, this is how, how I wasn't living in the right world. And she had actually been accused of stealing twice by two different people. And one other person was my friend. And I didn't take sides, but I didn't take that other friend's side.
Mm-hmm.
And she went up to another comic and they were fighting and shaking over a joke, and I still believed my friend didn't steal it. And then when that happened with me, something in my head was like, don't accuse her unless someone's there.
Wow.
So
Why? Why do you think that came up? That's so
I
interesting
must
and
have
weird.
somehow actually knew. But
Okay.
anyway, so then we were in the car with her mother, and her mother was driving us to a venue to do stand up.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Hey, you know that new joke you have about the jellyfish sting pee?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "That's mine." I'm like, "That actually happened to me." Thinking,
It'd be
"Oh,
cool.
yeah."
Yeah.
And thinking even anyway. So she was like, "Well, have you done it on TV yet?" And I was like,
Oh my God.
"No."
It's the
And
wrong
and
response.
and the mother just kept driving, did not say one thing.
Dead silence. Yeah.
Like my mom would be like, "Jacqueline." Like my mom's kind of like one of the worst. But she would still be like, "Jacqueline, that is not right. Do not, you
Yeah.
know?"
Yeah.
Like the mother just kept driving, and it was her joke, and she ended up doing it on TV.
She ended up doing it on TV. I could probably look her up because I know the joke now. But dude, that is fucked up.
Yeah.
Because that's funny. That's a funny joke. Um, yeah, and this person who was repeating my stuff, same thing. Like when it's your friend and this is happening, and you're both comics, you have a certain understanding and trust. Like the number one rule is don't steal somebody's joke, because it's just super hack to do it. It's like the worst thing to do, to steal somebody else's joke, because you're appropriating their lives, right? And yeah, this person, she was also once accused of stealing jokes, and she told me about it. She was like, oh, back in a different state where she was from, she's like, somebody accused me of stealing a joke and made it into a big thing, but like I never stole and blah blah. And I only know her side of the story, so I took her side, and I was like, yeah, that's so messed up that they accused you like wrongfully, and that's such a harsh accusation because it's a serious one. I'm sorry you went through that. And she was doing it to me, and I had the trust in her as a friend to confront her about it and be like, hey, this has been weighing on me, like, but this particular thing that you said, blah, blah, blah. At first, she was receptive to it because she hadn't only done it to me, she had done it to another writing group member too. But like these bitches are Midwesterners, so like they never get up in people's faces. Whereas, come on, I grew up in New York. Like I'll get up in your face and tell you how it is. And like, I was like, so-and-so is never going to tell you this, but you stole her joke. Like, you repeated her punchline last week. And she's like, oh, you're right. I come to think of it, I did. And the thing is, I still don't think she was stealing, like, maliciously, I do believe that she's stealing, like, there's this thing called cryptomnesia. It's like you forget where you heard the thing and you repeat it as if your brain came up with it because you forgot the origin of it. And to an extent, like all of us kind of have it,
We have
but
to. Kind of.
for her it's severe because she drinks a lot and she smokes a lot of pot, so both of those things really affect your memory poorly. And it's just, come on, like it's gonna happen if you're like this. And yeah, it happened to me like 3 times with her. And like the first time I confronted her, she was like understanding. Second time, she was like a little bit more defensive, but she was still like, okay, but I get it. Third time, she just flat out denied it. And she was like, you should just get over it. This is just something that happens. So you should just roll with the punches and like just get over your feelings. And I was like, not only is she being ambiguous about like either denying it or like admitting to it, because she's just like, get over it, this is something that happens. Like, it's like, what? Like, your morals are so fucking weird right now when it comes to comedy. But it's also like she's like gaslighting me and telling me that my feelings are incorrect, And I was like genuinely sitting there questioning my feelings. I was like, oh, should I get over my feelings? Like, am I being a fucking baby and like a hall monitor about this? So I reached out to one of those fucking Midwesterner bitches and I was like, hey man, am I overreacting? Because we're in the same writing group and this is happening and I want to leave. I'm not going to do this writing group anymore. I'm not going to do our weekend show anymore. I'm done. And she was like, no, nobody should ever tell you that your feelings are wrong. And I was like, okay, that was enough for me. And then I consulted with 2 other comedians who are like way more advanced, like, decades in, like they're like mentors of mine. I asked them about this and they both said, this is something that's happened to me as well. My suggestion is don't talk to her. She's not your friend. And I was like, okay, thank you. Because, like breaking up with a friend is hard. That's why you kept coming up with excuses for this friend, because she's your friend. You don't want to like break up with your friend. She's somebody you love and trust. But this person was flat out betraying your trust to your face.
Yeah. And gaslighting you too, right?
Yes.
It's the worst. She was a master of gaslighting.
She's manipulative, yeah. I think certain people are good at that.
Wow. That sucks.
Yeah.
That really sucks.
It does suck. And, but, also it was kind of like, at least I know now,
Get over
because
it.
if I had known.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Get over your feelings.
And
like,
was that this year?
Roll with the punches is what she said. She said this happened in December.
That's now
Yeah.
it's out that we have our own feelings and no one's allowed to say get over your feelings. Like
Yeah.
turn on the TV, read a meme. Like she should know.
Read a meme.
She needs to read some memes.
You need to read some memes Like, get more woke. Like,
Yeah.
your head is in the 1950s, man.
Yeah. Do you know Brene Brown?
I love Brene Brown. I love that white lady. She's like, yes. But, the things that she preaches, they're like, things that the Eastern philosophy preaches. It's stuff that, like, people, like, who took psychedelic substances in the 60s were preaching, It's the same thing.
It's the same thing, but nobody's getting it.
Thing. Nobody gets it. Nobody gets it. What's the point if you're buying her books and, like, watching her Netflix special thing, her Netflix TED Talk? What's the point?
That Netflix TED Talk was so good. She was
great.
She was really funny twice.
She was.
I forget what they were, but I was just like, wow. It was so good. Yeah. She's
a great public speaker. Yeah. A lot of professors are. They're good orators.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, because it's their job.
Right.
Some of them suck, actually. Oh my God. I've been to some academic conferences where, like, I'm like, whew, your students must hate you. My God, like, everybody in this room wants to die right now. Nobody's listening to your paper. We're just amazed at, like, how insensitive you are to the room, Like that.
Yeah, it's amazing when you see people not reading the room. Like, what goes through their head? Are they sociopaths?
I think it's like a type of social defect, It's a type of it's a type of social defect. Like there's a how do I say? He's like a colleague, So like I'm gonna be a teaching assistant for this class at UCLA called American TV History. American TV History is the class in the spring, and there are 4 teaching assistants, and there's one teaching assistant who just like he will talk for 45 minutes to 90 minutes straight without pausing or without asking if he's talking too much, or he's just one of those. He'll bulldoze, right? And like, this past week for me, it's been horrible because of the murders in Atlanta. And I don't want to sit in a fucking Zoom meeting for longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He brought up a point that he just wanted to talk, He was just like, oh, when I'm a teaching assistant, like, this is what I like to do. And I was like, okay, I'll give him that one point because he's locked up, we're all locked down. We need to talk. I'll give him that. Okay. And he goes, oh, and another thing I do. I'm like, okay, that's point 2. That's point 2, Grace. All right, just breathe. I'm like looking at my mason jar. I'm like doing breathing. I'm like, remember, you have the breath. Always time to the breath. And he's like, I have another thing. It's like, I'm like, oh, that's point 3. I'm starting to see red, right?
Yeah.
And then it's been 15 minutes, him talking straight nonstop. And then he's like, oh, and I have one thing. And it's like, nope, stop. You're done. It's just in the meeting, I just, you're done.
Good for you.
You're done. I'm done. We're done.
You.
Yeah, and I've known this person for like 5 years. We've been at the same university and same program for 5 years. I know what he's about. And I've been in seminars with him, and none of the professors ever would stop him from eating up all the class time when there were like 12 other people in these seminars. And I was just like, it's not fair to all of us. Even though we're trying to be gracious and generous and understanding and compassionate, we can't just give it all to him. We have to do that for ourselves and everybody else in the fucking room, And like, again, like I said, I grew up in New York. I have no problem letting you know, look, LA, you're a little too fucking sweet, huh? We don't need to let him fucking, dominate the room. There's like other women in here who have other thoughts and opinions. He's been talking for 30 minutes straight when he should have given his 5-minute presentation. Don't you think an extra 25 minutes was generous enough? And like 2 days ago, I had no problem being the bad guy. I was like, you're done. Okay, you're done. You're done.
God.
I'm done listening. We need to wrap it up because I don't want to sit here for another 15 minutes doing this.
Good for you.
It's hard for some people.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's hard? I think it's
definitely
hard.
Was he interesting at all? Not that matters.
No.
I'm just curious.
No,
I can
Jack,
just picture
it does
him.
matter.
Yeah.
It does matter whether he's interesting or not. Because if he was cracking me up or if he was dropping some big ass knowledge, I would have let him speak for as long as he wanted. But he was just going on and on about like, well, when I'm a TA, like I like to do this. And I'm like, I don't give a flying fuck what you like to do as a TA. We are all TAs. We know how to fucking TA. We all have our own fucking methods. You're not sharing anything that's illuminating or new or helpful. We took the fucking training course. Why are you just repeating that shit? I was like, if you want to talk more, just do it one-on-one with the professor. Or just send it to us as an email, because I can't sit here listening to this. No, I'm done.
Good for you.
I'm done.
I love it. Good
Yeah,
for
I had
you.
to be like, no. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm done.
Right, right. Yeah, there's like sometimes it's really spiritual to tell people to F off
It
or to
is.
shut up. Yeah,
Thank you for saying that. It
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Because, like, because I'm a bit of a straight shooter and I'm direct, people, like, I always have felt bad about it, you know? Like, I always felt bad. I was
no
like, oh,
more,
maybe I shouldn't
no
have said
more,
that. Maybe I shouldn't have done that.
no more feeling
But
bad about it.
But like since like very, very, very recently, I'm talking like since weeks ago, I just decided, and I was like, I have a choice to just be like, I'm lovable for doing this. Like I am completely and utterly a necessary part of society with my ability to do this.
Right,
Because there's so many people around me who just let everybody fucking rule their goddamn lives and they're miserable.
right.
And I'm like, why the fuck wouldn't you just stand up for yourself and just say no? Why are you just getting like life fucked all the time?
Right.
And they're just like, I can't because I don't want to be mean. I'm like, you're not being mean. You're protecting yourself. And I realized I wasn't listening to my own fucking advice. Like,
Right.
I would feel guilty. Honestly, like, if it had been me like a month ago and I did this, I would be beating myself up for 2 weeks, being like, oh, Grace, you fucking social faux pas addict, you know? And I was like, no, I was fully conscious of what I was doing. I was taking like deliberate action to like, be mindful in the moment and breathe and not react. And then I was like, I gave him enough.
Yeah.
And
You
now
even
I'm
counted
done.
it. You were on
Yeah.
point with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then afterwards, like when it was just me and the professor, because we had some other things to talk about, I just said to him, I was like, oh, I'm sorry about that. But, I've known him for a long time. He's one of those, if you don't stop him, he's going to talk for 90 minutes straight. And I was like, and I don't have it in me. I have other shit to do today. So, and he was like, oh, it's okay. I know him. I know what he's about. I was like, okay, cool. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so good. I feel like in the middle of his talking, you could just be like, no.
That's the other thing, it's like as comedians, like we're a bit outrageous, right? And it's funny for other comedians, but like for normal people, it's like horrifying. And so I have to really like, I have to figure things out before I do something. I have to be like, I mean, are they the right audience for this? Like,
Right.
would it be appropriate for me to like say or do something like this in this moment, or is everybody going to freak out and shut down? Because if they freak out and shut down, then it's over because there's no communication after that.
Right.
So when it comes to like the so-called normals, the non-comics, like I have to take an extra 2 steps of precaution with them.
Oh,
If and
same.
when I can.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I always do, because most of the time I'm incapable.
Right. Same.
Yeah.
Same. I remember like starting jobs. It'd be so hard to like reel back my personality. Like I'm like, I just want to be myself. Like, but you can't, because they'll be like, she's insane. Like, what is? But like once they get to know me, it's like, oh, they get it's my humor. But like,
Yes.
I cannot be myself right away. And it's I can
Yeah.
now more, but growing up, I couldn't. Like 20s, 30s.
Isn't that frustrating?
Yeah.
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 I know how that feels. It's very suffocating and it's very depressing
It
to
is.
not be able to just be who you are,
It
who you
is.
really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the most fun in life is being your authentic self fully and not caring what anybody thinks.
Yes, yes, yes. And loving all of your authentic
Yes.
actions and decisions and choices and words.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the best way to live life.
Yes. Also, I'm doing this like co-therapy with a friend, and she cracks me up because she's
Yeah.
got She's a lawyer from Dartmouth, and she's like,
Wow.
her husband's fine. They're in a great marriage, but I think it makes me laugh to think that he's like, oh yeah, I married a woman that was a lawyer from Dartmouth, but now she's doing this internal family system thing. Like, it just makes me laugh so hard. So have
Wow.
you ever heard of internal family system?
No,
So
I don't know what that
she and
is.
we go through this workbook together. It's so cool. But what I'm commending you on is you were like, no to this guy, and you were taking care of not only yourself, but like little you. And like when you can take care of little you before everybody else, like that's when our lives are great too. And that's what you were doing. You were putting not only you first, but this little you first. It's super important to do that. And you were like,
Thanks
I'm
for saying
not
that.
putting little me through your fucking garbage because and not today, buddy. Like, no, we're not
Yeah.
listening to you talk and like liking the sound of your own voice. Like, I'm not putting myself through that today. No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that I appreciate that because actually, that's something my therapist talks to me about a lot. I also have complex PTSD or long-term PTSD, and that is like the bulk of our therapy. But yeah, she always tells me that. She's like, Grace, whenever you want to eat 5 pizzas and watch 65 movies like straight, ask yourself if a 5-year-old Grace would enjoy that. And I'm like, all right. Because like that, the ability to access or tap into that child in you and really be attentive to what the little person in you needs is so hard.
Yeah.
It's actually very, very difficult to do that.
It's
So I
very
appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah, it's very confusing because I'll try to think for it, and I think I'm doing this great job, but I'm not because my friend will
Yeah.
like bring out this whole other need. And like one thing that came out was what my inner children there's more than one. Because of PTSD they break off even more. Everybody
Oh, I
has
didn't know
like
that.
different ones, but we have like so many more.
Okay.
And yeah. So what a lot of them wanted from me is humility. And I was like, I feel like I'm really humble. I always have thought that. But they need it extremely because my parents were narcissists. Like they can't have like it's very painful if I'm an ego even a little bit for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. They'll break apart, yeah, or they'll lose it. Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, I
I'm
understand
really
that.
overly aware of being in my ego, but it's great. It's made my life nicer. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like in our cultural zeitgeist, like we use this word ego like a pop word, like a pop culture word, but it's a psychological term. And the ego is, while it has its problems in some ways, like for the most part, it's there as a defense mechanism and it's there to protect us at all times. And
yeah,
it's a necessity for us to be functioning human beings, adults, really. And
right.
it kind of stores away our past experiences and says, oh, you don't want to go there because remember what happened last time, and it reminds us of those things. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Right. But you
And
don't want to be totally in the ego.
no, no. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I do like, uh, I'll do psychedelics every once in a while, like
Yeah.
medicinally, not
Yeah.
like abusively
Yeah.
or mixed with other substances, but like maybe like once or twice a year I'll do to
Mushrooms
kind of
or
reset. I prefer LSD, but most recently I did mushrooms.
I've
Yeah.
done a lot
And
of both. And I
yeah.
and I did DMT.
Okay, that I haven't done yet.
Yeah,
But
so
were they helpful a
yeah,
little?
very. I loved
Good.
them. And I
Yeah.
never had bad trips and I always helped people that were having bad trips.
Yeah. The
And
thing is, like, do you actually think like a bad trip? Do you think that's real? I
I
don't
don't
think it's
know because
real.
I
I just
never
feel like
had one. But I've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
people have them. And I would
Okay.
always say to them, like, remember, I was always like really good at getting them out of it. I'm like, remember, you're tripping. Like,
Yeah.
just focus on something different.
Oh.
And usually I would be able to help them. But I use that in life. Like, it reminds me of real life. Like, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
going crazy, like, you don't have to focus on that. You don't have to focus on that right now.
Yes.
Like, let's make something else
Yes.
bigger. Yeah.
We
And
have a choice.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Always. Yeah. That's a good point too. Yeah, I was also thinking like the 4 years of the Trump administration was like a 4 year long bad trip.
Yeah.
4 year long
Absolutely.
bad trip. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Lived lived reality bad trip
Yeah.
for all of
That
us.
was unbelievable. Like, if you wrote a movie about it, people would be like, that could never happen.
That wasn't real. Yeah, this is a sci-fi piece. It's like,
Yeah.
nah, dude, that was America from
Yeah.
2016 to 2020. Oh my God, we're so fucked up as a country, man.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I like the things that you're saying. I appreciate them. I'm learning. I'm learning a lot. Okay, so
Same.
I don't want to eat up too much of your time. There's this show. There's this TV show that I'm focusing on for this particular episode. It's called Thank You. So I'm just gonna ask you like some flashcard questions based on the
Okay.
show. Just answer them however you might. Okay, so let's say you're a really successful surgeon
Okay.
named Kizhan. And you're not only successful, but you're also really arrogant. You're so stuck up. Oh my God, you think you're a hot piece of shit. And you have a girlfriend named Jimin, and she's also a doctor, but she has stage 4 cancer. Okay. And you decide you're going to go ahead and operate on her because you're confident, you're big shot, you could save her, but she dies on the operating table. What do you do?
I. What do you do? I mean, as me or as him?
As
I mean, I
you
think
as
that
him.
you
As you
have.
as him.
Isn't it against the law to operate on somebody that you are in a relationship with or related to?
I think related to, but they're dating. They're not necessarily married yet. And also he's, again, he's a big shot and he is stubborn, so they go ahead and it happened. The thing is it happened, regardless of the law.
I mean, you have to take ownership of it all and say you thought that you could help her, but you were wrong.
Cancer and other ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So self-acceptance maybe.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think you
All
should
right,
go
cool.
to jail for a little while. Like, I don't think you should be operating. Like, what does her family say? Was her family like, yeah?
It's weird. Like her family like wasn't even in the picture here. Like this was like the pilot episode. It like happened really fast and they moved on. But okay. All right. Let's go to question number 2. You're still the same arrogant surgeon guy right now. Okay. So right before your doctor girlfriend passed away, she confessed to you some horrible mistake that she made in the past when she was like a newbie doctor. She gave a toddler girl a blood transfusion, but that blood was contaminated by HIV. I know, and this error haunted her whole life. How do you respond to your dying girlfriend who just told you this?
I would tell her, good thing you're dying now. I would say, you deserve this. You deserve this. I would just be like, everything comes back to you. This, now we know. I'll be like, I knew there was another reason why you were dying because I'm such a good surgeon. I am such a good surgeon that karma is getting you. My great surgery, my magic hands are being not working because your karma is stronger. Goodbye. Goodbye. Your karma got you.
Yeah, bye. Love you.
Bye-bye. No, I guess I would say just you're forgiven, like go in peace, Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Let's say you're a man named Sakhyun, okay? You're a man. You're friends with Youngshin. She's a single mother to a young daughter named Pom, okay? And you hang out with the little kid, Pom. You hang out, but you see one day that Pom's nose starts bleeding. All right? So you're concerned. So you run to her to help her, but Youngshin cuts in and says, "Leave her alone. Don't touch her." And then the mother says to the little girl, is like, "What did I tell you?" And then the little girl recites what her mother taught her, which is, "I will not accept another person's help." And you don't understand what the fuck is happening. What do you do?
I'm like, I tried and I walk away. No. I know. I skip away. No.
You got this.
Yeah. Go ahead with all of that, you two. Good luck. I think I would say, you guys, I used to think that too, that we should take care of everything on our own, but we all need to be interdependent. Nobody can do things by themselves. We don't want to be codependent or independent, interdependent.
What a healthy response.
We need to help each other. Yeah.
Yes. And ask for help when we need it.
Yes. It's very important. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right. Coming in with the guru stuff. Got it. I like it. Okay. So you're back to being that arrogant surgeon guy, right? Because of the trauma of your dead girlfriend, you're just like done. So you move to this tiny rural town where you know that this the patient, your former patient of your ex-girlfriend lives, okay? Move to this tiny rural town. You meet the single mother, Youngshin, and she's taking care of her senile elderly grandfather and her young daughter named Pum. And you realize that this is the young girl with HIV, the one that your girlfriend fucked up with. And there are like lots of secrets that nobody knows. You know, like, nobody knows who the girl's father is, for instance. Like nobody in town knows the girl's condition. Like everybody treats the girl like she's just, you know, part of the town. Like
Does
nobody knows.
Does the mother know that she has HIV now?
The mother knows.
Okay.
The mother definitely knows.
Did the woman, did she tell her?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. She told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she couldn't hold that back.
Okay.
I mean, Jesus, that's a huge mistake. Yeah. So you find, as this arrogant surgeon doctor person, you find yourself falling in love with this single mom Youngshin lady. Yeah, she's kind of hot. She's got a good heart. And you're like, I like this woman. But, of course, you have this complicated past where your ex-girlfriend's error caused this woman's great distress in life. What do you do?
Try to cure AIDS completely.
Okay.
I like wear all clothes with the pictures of Magic Johnson so that she knows you can live forever with it.
Yes, give her hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what would I do? I guess, well, as I said before, rigorous honesty. I think I would say everything, but in due time. Like, you can't just open with that.
On the first date. Yeah.
You're like, this happened, but you'll be happy to know I killed her.
It was an accident, but the intention was good.
It all came back, and she's gone. She won't be messing with any more kids and their blood.
Okay, great answer. All right, fine. Okay, these are great answers. I love them. I feel like you should have written this Korean drama. Okay. let's say you're a woman named Eun-hee, okay? You find out that your fiance, Seokhyun, is actually the father to this neighborhood bastard child, Pum. No one knew this, but the truth is slowly coming out. And now your fiancé wants to go back to his ex-girlfriend and be a father to his daughter. What do you do?
Wait, say that one again?
So you're this woman named Eunhee. You have
Mm-hmm.
a fiance,
Mm-hmm.
okay? A man. And this man recently learned that the bastard child that's in town, Pom, this girl, like who's like nobody knows who the father is, like turns out like he's the father. He finds out recently like he's the father. But he's your fiance, you know? Like what he wants to go back to his ex-girlfriend, to this woman,
Uh,
Youngshin,
and be a father.
and be a father now. Yeah, what do you do?
I would let him go be a father.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I believe that there's more than that we don't have soulmate. Like I believe we can have multiple soulmates. So why
Okay.
I don't believe in depriving somebody of something for my own benefit.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yes.
I believe there's enough for everybody, and to let if I let something go, more will come to me.
Okay. You trust the
I
universe.
do.
Mm,
Yes.
okay. That's another
I
very
didn't
like guru-like
always.
answer.
I didn't always.
It's like just like yesterday you started doing
I
this, yeah.
know. I forced things a lot.
Yeah. It's like that's what spirituality is to an extent and what self-improvement is. It's like forcing yourself to drink like celery juice every morning even though you hate the taste of it,
Yeah.
you know? You
Yeah.
just do it because you know it's good for you.
Yeah.
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 But it is. It is good for you. What are you gonna
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
All right. All right, fine. Last question. You're Youngshin, the single mom. The townspeople, and it's a very provincial town, like farmers and shit, okay? The townspeople find out that your daughter is HIV positive. And everybody you've known your whole entire life are now acting weird. They won't talk to you. They won't look at you. They don't want to be anywhere near you. They fire you from your job. They're horrible to you. What do you do now?
I mean, it's interesting. Part of me is just like move, but but I feel like you're just gonna come up with the same thing, and that's not teaching the daughter to
Hmm.
be herself and uh, go through the fire
Hmm.
to learn the lesson, and but it'd be so hard to watch your child go through pain, like that pain. But
Hmm.
yeah, I guess I would just be there for her totally, and try to educate the town in some way.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
education is the key to everything. Not, enlighten,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm. Yeah. Knowledge and truth. Yeah.
knowledge and truth. Knowledge, truth,
Hmm.
and coming from love is important. And
Yeah.
yeah, because, yeah,
I like how you added coming from love.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's an important ingredient. Like with my last trip, I kept struggling with how arrogant I am. I was like, I'm so arrogant. I'm so stuck up. I think I'm smarter than everybody. I think I'm better than everybody. That's why I look down on people all the time. I'm always judging them. And they were like, well, I had a couple of friends with me. They were like, well, okay, but like arrogance isn't always all bad, you know? Like, sometimes people see it as like a leadership skill. They feel like they could rely on you. And then the conclusion I came to is okay, if I ever make a statement or a judgment call, as long as I add love in there, it will stop
Mm,
being arrogance. It's no longer arrogance,
right,
because it's not about me and fronting.
right.
It's just, then, yeah, that's the key
That's
ingredient.
absolutely 100% true.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because we can either come from, everything we do either comes from love or fear. And if we're
Yeah,
doing something from fear, if you're arrogant because of fear, then
yeah,
it's catastrophic, horrible
right.
things can happen from it. But coming from
The Trump
love,
administration will happen. Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah,
So coming from
yeah,
love all the time, that's all you have to do. Yeah, that's really
hmm,
it. Well, that's really beautiful
yeah.
that you came up with that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, but it echoes like what you just said, like uh knowledge and truth, but from love. Yeah, from a
Yeah,
place of love.
Yeah.
Because like, and this was a brief conversation I had yesterday. Like in Koreatown, every Thursday at 6 p.m., there are these local community members, like LA people, who do this like street patrol thing, like neighborhood watch at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. They just walk around the block and just look at car garages or whatever because because of the anti-Asian hate crimes have been skyrocketing. And just last month, a U.S. veteran got beaten up like to a pulp by two racists. And he served the country, he was like in the US Air Force. And so this community organization just like started doing this since a couple weeks ago, I think. And I walked with him yesterday. And there's this one woman, she's been like a lifelong activist. Like she's from Torrance and she's like Asian American activist. And she was just like, I don't know why like so many people in our community watch Fox News. I was like, you don't know why so many Asian members in our community watch Fox News? She's like, no, what's with that? I was like, my parents are Democrats, but they watch Fox News because Fox News dumbs down the English, and my parents can understand them because it's simple and easy.
Wow.
And I was like, what does that say about us liberals? We think we're so fucking knowledgeable and intellectual. It's elitism. We don't know how to talk to our own fucking family members whose first language isn't English, or maybe they didn't go to college. My parents didn't go to college either. How do we speak to our closest individuals and our family members, without making them feel like they're being talked down to?
Right.
Or without making them feel insecure about their educational background or their cultural background. It's like the left, we're not very good at that. We're good at formulating words. We're good at like coming up with critical race theory and like the next wave of feminism and intersectionality. We're good at that. But try talking about intersectionality with your mom. See if she gets it,
Right.
That's a challenge. Don't use the word intersectionality, but just describe it to her. She's going to understand.
Right. Right.
So our news outlets, our more left-leaning news outlets, they need to figure out a way to really be more inclusive, yes, of people from different classes and different, whatever their immigration status is or their language barriers or whatever. We need to be able to accommodate better.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, they're going over to the other side, not
That's
because
beautiful.
they want to. It's
Yeah.
because of need.
Yeah. I watched the QAnon doc, just the first episode on HBO. Did you watch it?
Yeah. I saw it floating around, but I haven't looked at it yet.
I really hadn't paid attention to QAnon because it scared me. Not scared me.
Me too.
Not scared me, but it gets me angry.
Yeah,
And,
me too.
I watched it and I'm like, it still makes me very angry. But
Yes.
like what I noticed in it is, I mean, they're using the Matrix and Alice in Wonderland, like going down the rabbit hole, and they're using the word awakening. And they're using all these beautiful things and using it for hate. But what they're doing is making these people feel smart and heard and that they're part of something.
There you go.
And that is terrifying to me. And
It is.
I feel like what could stop it is exactly what you're saying. Making everybody feel as one and heard and listened to. Like these people feel like they're quitting their jobs to like follow Q, and Q's sending them like.
Yeah.
Did you ever read The Alchemist?
No, I know it's a very critical book, but
In the
I have not.
Alchemist, they talk all about seeing omens and following the omens to your path. And it's kind of like what Q is making for them. Q is making these omens and these people, these cryptic things, and these people are seeing it and feeling like they're part of something beautiful, and it's not.
Right.
And it's I feel like exactly what you're saying. Like we need to not condemn these people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
help them feel heard.
Yeah.
And part of in some way, so that they're not trying to join this horrible thing.
Yeah. And, we on the left, we have to admit that was our failure. We fucked up. You know, we fucked up by being stuck up, by being arrogant. That was the problem, you know? Be like,
Yeah.
look, you don't know. Like, I went to school, I went to college, I know more. My eyes are open. So, like, let me tell you what it's about.
Yeah.
That's like losing your audience. That you lost them. You
Yeah.
lost these, like, elderly people who, like, never went to college. All they did was work as working class people. Like, you lost them.
Yeah.
Um, I think the key word is feeling of safety. Like, that's something that we use all the time in academia. It's like, make sure your students feel safe. Emphasize safety. And what does that mean? Does that mean when they say it, they're like, make sure, like, people who want to speak up for women's rights and, like, people want to speak up for people of color, that they feel safe. I was like, what about the other people who grew up, out in rural Midwest and have, like, Republican parents and are deeply Christian? What about them? What about them and
Right.
their opinions? What if they don't feel safe in my classroom? What about that? Right? That's trickier. That's harder.
Right.
And that is our responsibility. And, like, this is something I learned from a friend of mine who said this, because she's like first generation in her Mexican American family to go to college and go to graduate school, and she's a mother now, and she's a wife, and she works at UPenn. But she was like, when I was an undergrad, I never went to my professors because I didn't feel, like, particularly safe going to them, even though I had a lot of questions, even though I da da da. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, so then, like, I have to compliment them all the time. She's like, no, students don't want to hear compliments necessarily. They want to feel safe. And I was like, all right, and that's trickier. That's harder to do.
Yeah.
Complimenting is easy. I could just do it without meaning it at all. But, like, generating an environment of safety and feeling of safety for young adults, that is so much harder. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
haven't figured it out yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. My intention is there.
Yeah.
So what you're saying right now resonates with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I went, I worked at this restaurant, Del Frisco's in New York City, and there was a guy from Texas, and he was homophobic. And I remember he was, like, outwardly homophobic. Like, oh yeah. Yeah.
Shamelessly. Yeah.
You're burning in hell. And and I was, like, laying in bed. I couldn't sleep. I was so angry. Like, I'm gonna show
Right.
him. I'm gonna da da da.
Yeah.
And I was just laying in bed, like, trying to solve for it. And then I was like, I'm just gonna be really nice to him because everybody else hated him. Everybody hated him. And
There you
I'm
go.
like, I'm gonna be really nice to him because that's all I can do.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fight it out of him. It's not gonna work.
No. Show him
Yeah.
as, like, a member of the LGBTQI community
And
that you're a real
humanity.
person.
And humanity. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I was
Yeah.
just really nice to him, and he ended up leaving and go home. But he went. But, like, I know if someone's like fucking lesbians, he's gonna be like, oh, I knew this really nice one. You know what I mean? Like,
There you go. There
he'll
you go.
yeah. But it took me a long time
Yeah.
to get there. I wanted to, like, I wanted to.
It's so hard.
Yeah. It was so
It's so hard to not react and
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
take that extra effort to be generous.
Yeah.
Which is why, you read all those books and you do all these exercises and we drink the juice and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Which is why we fucking do it, so that we have the wherewithal and the capacity and the tools to be able to respond in this way rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the easy way, which is be, like, righteous and get on your soapbox and tell him off.
Right. Right.
But that's actually not bravery. That's actually very easy.
Yeah, it's very
Actually.
easy. It's super easy.
Yeah.
And so something I learned is to be humble. I didn't even know what the word was. I didn't know. I took it as humiliation. I felt like it was
Really?
part of that. And then when I learned about humility, like not being better than anybody and not being worse, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
heaven. Like, that's the sexiest quality anybody can have is to
Yeah.
be humble. And
Oh, yeah.
so that's, like, changed everything for me in that way. Because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love everybody, but I was judging people who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I was judging people who, like, I would judge people that voted for Trump.
Yeah,
which is still
for
hard
sure.
not to. But
Yeah.
I'm not better than them.
Yep. Yep.
It's hard to understand that sometimes, but
Yeah.
when I do, when I can, it just feels great. And I
Yeah.
know
Do you like do a self reminder in order to keep your head in that space, or
yeah,
like how?
I
Yeah.
say right sized, Jackie, right sized, right sized.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise
All
I'll
right.
go insane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Humility is difficult. I mean, that's why monks are monks because,
yeah,
they are trained in it.
yeah. I get angry at because I'm like, how easy would that be?
Yeah, maybe. My mom, who I always felt like she never really knew me, she actually, like, when she said this one thing, she didn't even say it to me. She said it to a friend, and then my friend said it to me. And I was like, oh, my mom, I guess she really does know me. My friend was like, you know what, you know how your mom described you is she said that you should go into the mountains and be a Buddhist monk. She said that is like the best job for you. And I was like, that is absolutely like the best job for me. How does she know? It's just I don't have the guts to be able to do it. I like living my life the way it is. I'm a very material girl, and like I like going to get degrees, and I like comedy, and
Yeah,
I like things. So I like the secular life, but yeah, ideally speaking, that would have been the ideal life for me. I
same.
don't think it's easy to be a monk. You have to give up the world. You have to give up the
That's
world.
interesting
It's
because
hard.
that's what my writer friend, I said. I'm like, how easy would it be to be a monk? And she was like, Jack, you have to give up TV. You have to give up all that stuff. And I was like, gladly.
Yeah. You have to give up your own sleep cycle. They wake up super early, they have their challenges too.
Like
Like
what? What is their conflict? What is their contrast?
okay, so there's this Zen Buddhist monk I really love. He's a Korean Zen Buddhist monk named Himin, who recently got canceled, actually, unfortunately, but that's all a big misunderstanding, I think. But anyway, he said that at a retreat with all these other monks, right? He had one partner, like for eating. So like they face each other and they just eat. But you could talk as well. And this monk in front of him wasn't talking at all, just like dead silent and only eating his food. And this particular, he was like, oh my God, is he like mad at me? Like, did I wrong him? And he was like dealing with all these like negative self-doubt kind of thoughts, right? And then like 3 days passed, and then this monk suddenly like looked brighter and lighter and was like talking. And then what this monk realized was that this man in front of him was actually working something out, like mentally, like he was, or spiritually. He was like working through something. And so he didn't have the wherewithal to be able to like, be chummy with his like eating partner. And so it's like, oh, okay, like my self-doubt and self-hatred was all just like internal. It had nothing, like whatever he was doing, it had nothing to do with me, you know? So they have those kinds of challenges, which are challenges that you and I face every day.
Right.
Every day, right? It's like, why didn't this bitch text me back? Like, what the fuck did I do, cunt? But it's like, literally, she's just like, I don't know, like her dog died or something, or dog sick, and she didn't have the capacity to, so it's never about us. In fact, nobody really gives a shit about us like that, you know? I mean, they care, but they don't think about you all day, every day. We do. We think about me all day, every day, and create these stories, fill in these gaps with irrationality. So what the monks go through is the same as what we go through, but the work and the reason why we pay them money, like, or visit them and ask them to pray for us and stuff, is that they're our spiritual kind of, how you say, pioneers. They're creating paths for us, Like the reason why we have these self-improvement books, they didn't just come out of nowhere. They came out of like thousands of years of these people being spiritual journey people. It's all been passed down.
But so okay, I guess
why do you hate monks?
I guess,
do you just hate them because they seem
complacent?
complacent?
God, I love them. I want to be one. But you're right. If I want to be one,
why'd you say you hate them?
But if because I'm like, let a monk wait on a table. Like, let's see how spiritual they are. Like, they can't be. They can't
Yeah.
be. Like, it's just weird having somebody tell you something and it's like, go wait on a table and then say that to me. Like, you
Hmm.
can't. But now
Yeah.
that I'm getting like more and more zen, I guess I can maybe. Like, I do see differently than I did then.
Of
Yeah,
course.
I don't hate them. I want to be one, same as
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I guess
No,
you.
it's my dream
But
job.
now I'm like, maybe I don't want to give up things.
I don't want to give up things. There's no way I could be a monk. I'll say that right now. Like I have so many plans, things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Monks, like, they don't, like, they chose not to do that. They chose not to live a secular life. They know that their job is somewhere else. Like they have a higher calling or whatever, and they're happy doing that, you know? Um,
Yeah, you have to eat the
or
same
not, you know,
food
it
every
depends,
day,
but
right? You have to. Do you get to eat good food?
I mean, they probably eat like similar things every day. I know it's
I like
vegetarian, and
I
I know
lentils.
in Korea, like their fucking food is like bomb ass shit, you know? Like I hear they eat like the best food in Korea. But yeah, monks do have like a limited in terms of diet, like they have dietary restrictions. Like they can't eat meat, they can't eat anything from animals. Like they have to lead like a vegan, vegetarian life. And that can be challenging, you know? What
Yeah.
if you're not the one that's always cooking? Somebody else is cooking for you for family meal. What if it sucks, right?
Yeah, that would
And
really
you have to
suck.
do some spiritual mindfulness to come out of that funk, you know?
Ha-
They're people too, I think.
Yeah. Have you ever done silent meditation for like a week?
I haven't. Have you?
No. I want to, but I
Mm.
never do. Why didn't I do it? Anyway, I should do it before they get my shots. The A friend of mine went to do it. There's some place that you could do it around here and pay what you can, and they feed you and everything. Have you ever heard of it?
Interesting.
I'll
I
find out about
haven't.
it and send it to you. But
Okay,
you
thanks.
you have to share it with one person, share a room with one
Whoa.
person, and she shared it with this guy, and all they were eating was lentils. The food was good, but a
Oh
lot of
my God.
lentils, and the guy had
Okay.
gas and was just.
Ah, God. Like, what do you do in that moment? Like, how do you
She had
say,
to change
can you
her
please not
room.
fart
She had to
in the
change her
room?
room.
Do you have to sign that to him? Do you have to like write it down?
I
Like, I
think
mean,
she had
how
to.
do you
Yeah, I don't
communicate
know.
that?
I'll find out. I'll find out about you and
Or
tell
do you
you.
have to just be like, okay, these are our bodies and it's beautiful. I'll just inhale your farts and, you
Ugh.
know, figure out a way to handle it on my own. Good for your friend. All
Yeah.
right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. It was a
You
joy talking to you.
too.
Next week, I'm going to talk about a show called Master's Son. It also stars Kong Hyojin. I really love her. I mean, if she's in it, I'm probably going to watch it and review it on this podcast. I believe Master's Son can be viewed on Viki. It used to be on Netflix. That's how I first saw it in the United States, but I don't think it's on Netflix anymore. I'm pretty sure it's on Viki now. And I actually watched a really, really fantastic drama very recently. It's not a contemporary drama. It came out in 2013. So it is contemporary, but like it's a little bit, it's like, 8 years old. So it's a bit up there. However, it is really good. I loved every moment of it. I learned a lot from it, and I am very excited to review that. Even still, if there is a show that you want me to watch and talk about on this podcast, I'm very happy to take requests. So email me at kdramaschool@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Please subscribe at K Drama School on YouTube. I mean, that is like very, very important right now. I need more YouTube subscribers, so please do that. But other than that, thank you as always for listening, and I will see you all next week.